think for any organisation to turn 50 is quite a wonderful achievement. For an organisation like ours that depends on the generosity of the public, I think it's an even more remarkable achievement. Turning 50 has given us the opportunity to stop and reflect and think about all that we've achieved over the past 50 years, and to think about all the people who have helped us along the way, some of whom are sadly no longer with us today, but they are very much in our thoughts.
The objectives we had at that time were to raise local funds for cancer research to be done at our universities, and to also educate the public about cancer, because there were far too many people dying of cancer unnecessarily with late diagnosis, and people were afraid to talk about the disease in those days. And in the first year I was there, I remember that the chairman and I went out and covered, I don't know how many public meetings, but at the end of that year we had formed 30 fundraising committees, and at the end of year 2 we had well over 60 fundraising committees. Many of those committees were still operating when I retired from the foundation 29 years later, and they were the main source of money for the foundation at that time.
In 1972, it was the Ulster Cancer Foundation, obviously in those days. It was decided that a group would start up in Rathfriland, and I was at the inaugural meeting at that, and I just felt it was a very worthwhile cause, and that it was nice to be part of a fundraising effort to benefit other people. We started off with fundraising efforts like sponsored walk, coffee mornings, cake and produce sales, which always go down well in a town like ours. I know that definitely in the last 10 years we have raised in excess of £191,000, which I think for a group our size is quite good.
We are here to address the impact that cancer has on the people of Northern Ireland, and we're very, very Northern Ireland focused. Every penny we raise is spent here in Northern Ireland. And how we do that will be in different ways. So, we do campaign for effective public policy. We fund research locally. But also we must look at the impact that cancer has on families, on individuals, what happens to families when a mum or dad gets cancer, what happens to families when they lose a mum or dad, and we're there to support them with that.
Right from the chief executive to my board, right through it, the whole entire organisation, from the part-time volunteer who drives the vans for us to the more senior staff, they've got a passion to help people and they want to be here.
I've been working here for 10 years and I work with children all the way through to pensioners. It's a combination of counselling and letting people express themselves through art. So even when words are hard to find, the art can contain it and they can get out all those emotions into the clay or onto the page. I think they have all the answers within themselves. It's just finding a way to let that come to the surface.
I was directed to Cancer Focus by my breast care team up at the Ulster Independent. They handed me a whole pile of leaflets when I got my diagnosis, and really were very enthusiastic about coming to Cancer Focus, particularly for underwear and things like that. And then they talked about the different counselling services that were available, and once I sort of came down and had a nosy through everything, I sort of got a better idea of what was available. Rachel Smith came out to speak to us, and it was her that first suggested the art therapy. I find it quite hard to talk about me. I'm sure the art therapist Joanne would attest to that. I talk about my husband, my kids, my mother, my work. I talk about everything except me. So I find the art's a really good way to sort of deal with myself without having to necessarily discuss it, if that makes sense. And it gives me a space to talk about everything else as well. But because the art therapy is all mine, just to myself, I find that it really helps me as well.
I became involved with Cancer Focus family support nights really because when my husband was diagnosed with melanoma cancer, malignant melanoma cancer, basically I started to panic, thinking what is out there, wasn't sure, wasn't aware of what was out there to help me and the children basically. So basically Tony passed away January last year, and he was my soulmate, and yeah, it was very hard few months, which last me pretty much about a month or so ago. We asked us the question, you know, what did I get out of family support night? And for me, it's been just having others, men and women, who cry alongside you, who basically feel your same feelings. I just found it an amazing comfort.
Counselling and writing about my cancer journey with Cancer Focus NI made a huge impact in my life. You realise that you're not isolated, you're not by yourself, and that there's somebody there who can support you, who can back you up, and who can give you what you need. Because as a mother and a wife, you're constantly trying to protect your family from your feelings and your fears. But when we were writing about our cancer journey, or speaking to Barbara as a counsellor, everything was done confidentially, and you could talk about whatever you wanted. I actually don't think the Cancer Focus NI realise the positive impact that they do have on people's lives. It's life-changing. And it gives you that focus to actually be able to move forward with your life that I wouldn't have had without them.
I would say to the entire team, both within the organisation and our volunteers out there, throughout Northern Ireland, a huge thank you. None of what we have achieved would have happened without you.
I think we've stood the test of time because we've remained very close to our roots. We started off really with those 4 areas of work: our campaigning, our research, our services to people living with cancer, and our prevention. And how maybe we've done that will have changed over the past 50 years, but actually that as our core business has not changed hugely. And I don't see it changing very much in the future, although methods may well change. And I'm just very energised. You know, we've achieved 50 years, and I think the next 50 years, bring it on.